Okay, I will take the floor right now. Thank you very much. It's 10 o'clock, so we can officially start with the webinar. I hope that you can all hear me well and you can see me well. Right now, I'm sharing my screen. Again, I hope that everybody can see the screen. If you have any technical problems, please refer to our technical staff, Luca Guardincerri, who in the chat is called Skillman Webinar Room. So for anything at all, please refer to him in the chat section. We can officially start. First of all, welcome everybody to the Skillman webinar today on Skills and Education Guarantee Pilot. Thank you very much for attending the event. I'm actually very glad to see such a high participation from the audience. Right now we're 37. This is very encouraging number. So that's a very good number. As you can see in the chat section right now, all participants are in mute mode at this very time. So after the presentations will be given by the speakers, there will be an interactive question and answer section where everybody can raise their hands and contribute with questions and comments. Then a moderator will turn the microphones on, so all the participants will be able to speak later on after the presentations. Okay, let's get it started. This is an overview of today's speakers list. As you see, today we will have two representatives from the European Investment Fund. Laura Angiuro, the Strategy and Business Development Officer, and Cecilia Tarrio, the Transaction and Relationship Officer. My name is Valentina De Vico. I am the Communication Manager of the Skillman team. And today I will be moderating the event together with my colleague Fabio Croci, our Senior Project Manager. The webinar will consist of different sections, as I already mentioned. To begin with, I will be giving a general overview of the Skillman network and the activities that we have planned and already implemented. Then I will pass the floor to Fabio Croci, with his greetings and to introduce the European Investment Fund organization. And afterwards, Laura Angiuro and Cecilia Tarrio will present the financing tool. The following part, as I mentioned already, will include an interactive activities, specifically a quiz to allow active participation from the audience. And that will be followed by a Q&A section and to finish with the closing remarks. So, as I said, I will give just a few important details about the Skillman network and the activities that we have been organizing to engage our international experts. First of all, Skillman is an international network that includes a multitude of stakeholders, mainly TVET providers, also universities, research centers, individuals, industries, and policymakers. The network focuses on skills research and training in the advanced manufacturing sector. So it basically aims at introducing and exchanging skills. It also provides innovative curricula for the advanced manufacturing sector and facilitates the cross-networking activities for our international members. The network was created in 2014. But since then, it has been grown really fast and really high. And actually, nowadays, we have more than 550 active members who we regularly engage in a series of events and activities. And they come from 84 countries, even outside of Europe. So as you see from the audience today, we have a very diverse network of experts coming from different geographical locations. So we're very proud for these active participations from our members even today. Now, all the events and activities that we have been implemented and that we will implement in the future are facilitated and promoted by a series of international organizations, as you see from the screen right now. For example, AER, who is the Assembly of European Regions, IVETA, the International Vocational Education and Training Association, Cumulus, that is the Association of Universities and Colleges of Art, Design and Media, and EAPRIL, that is the European Association for Practitioner Research on Improving Learning. Now, the management of those activities and events are facilitated by all these organizations and are done in partnership with ETF, the European Training Foundation, that we're very, very proud to cooperate with. Today's webinar is actually a series of webinars that we have designed and started already to implement, webinars on EU funds opportunities. So this is just one of the 18 webinars that we have in mind to plan even in the forthcoming future. As you see from the screen, we actually have already implemented one of those webinars, the one on capacity building in higher education 2021. And next Wednesday, June 17th, we're going to have the webinar on knowledge alliances in the maritime sector. So of course, everyone is welcome to participate to this and all the others. And later on, we will give more details on how to register eventually. Then we will have youth policy partnerships and then policymaker partnerships. Of course, after those events, we are planning to do more. All these events, including today's event, actually have the ultimate objective of circulation and collection of information about the EU fund opportunities and tools, and also to establish effective partnerships and design successful proposal for future project calls. Before giving the floor to my colleague Fabio Croci, as I already mentioned, I'm just showing you right now this slide. Actually, this is in preparation for our section later of the quiz. So please, everybody, if you have your computer or your phone with you, please try to access this website, slido.com, with the access code pilot. Or alternatively, try to scan the QR code that you see on your screen right now to access the platform. This will be useful for later when we will have the quiz section. So for now, just access the platform, and later it will be easier and faster to move on with this section. So from my side, it's all for now. I think Fabio Croci can intervene after me. We will give just a few seconds to the audience to access the platform that I just mentioned. Thank you very much. Fabio, are you connected?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Valentina. Thank you for your presentation. Very effective. Yes, my name is Fabio Croci. I'm the project manager of the Skillman network and funded the project who has been presented by Valentina. Let me quickly introduce these, well, not the webinar because it has been already introduced by Valentina. Let me mention some of our relevant partners, because we are under the Skillman network cooperating with other relevant organizations at the European level and worldwide. Let me mention, first of all, IVITA. IVITA is the International Vocational Education and Training Association, as well as Cumulus Association, the International Association of Universities and Colleges of Art, Design and Media. We also have as a relevant partner in terms of policy makers, the Assembly of European Regions. Thank you very much for your support, as well as the support of EAPRIL. EAPRIL is the European Association for Practitioners Research on Improving Learning. Altogether, we are composing this network and supporting the Skillman activities, which is now funded by the Erasmus Plus program under the Key Action 3 action, meaning that we are mainly involving in those activities, meaning presenting frameworks and tools and opportunities from the European Commission and trying to strengthen the networks in the advanced manufacturing sector for the vocational training topics. As you've understood, today we have a very relevant topic, which is this skills and education guarantee pilot. I will introduce in a couple of minutes our colleagues from the European Investment Fund. But before, let me also thank all of you, the participants who joined us today. We have seen a lot of response to our event. I can see that a lot of people is already connected. We are very honored for your participation. I know that we also have very relevant organizations. We had several applications from various ministers of education or vocational training across the world, like Egypt, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, other important entities. Let me mention, for example, the Institution of Diploma Engineers from Bangladesh. You have to forgive me if I can't name you all, but anyways, thank you again for being here with us. I think we also have some representatives from the European Commission. Thanks very much for being here with us. It is my duty to clarify immediately that the skills and education guarantee pilot, which is going to be presented, it is related only to European member states. Of course, we are glad to host friends also from other regions of the world. It will be relevant also to have you in this webinar, because one of the aim of this project is also to collect feedbacks for policymakers, and of course at European level, but as you know, several instruments of European Commission also applies outside European borders. This is why we will organize as soon as possible, due to this success of in terms of participation across the world, we will also organize as soon as possible another webinar focusing on, let's say this is a draft, but on a global comparative analysis of instruments from the public authorities and also relevant stakeholders. We already got the declaration of potential cooperation from some of you, like you already mentioned, the Institution of Diploma Engineers from Bangladesh. Also, other webinars will come focusing on other European tools, again on vocational training, but some of them are also open to other countries other than European members, like the capacity building for higher education, knowledge alliances, both from the Erasmus Plus program, but also about other various calls from the Rising program. All those activities will also be open to, again, countries from other regions from the world. So please stay tuned on the Schema website and social channels for all those future events. I see in the chat that there is already a first question about the slides. Yes, everything will be shared. You will listen to my colleague Valentina for further details, and you will receive further instructions. Valentina mentioned the fact that we are going to make a quiz. Yes, it is correct. After you listen to the presentation from the European Investment Fund, we thought it would be nice to make this kind of very quick and quite easy quiz. If you listen carefully to this presentation, the persons which will answer correctly to all the questions and will be the fastest one will also win a prize. We would like to refund up to 300 euros for the participation of one of our forthcoming physical events, on-site events, the winner. Of course, these are refund applicable for the travels and accommodation. Usually it should be only related to European members, but of course we will open this opportunity to all those participants. Unfortunately, you know that we are still under this pandemic situation. Otherwise, we would have been able to give you a specific location and date, but it is not the case. We planned several physical events in the last months, then we had to cancel and move everything on the webinars. We had planned in the beginning international conference in September, but of course we won't be able to manage it. Now We have a next potential date in December, but let's say that anyway, this prize will be given once that we have the planned agenda in a full details. So stay tuned and take care to the next presentation to give the correct answers. Now it is time to officially present, and thanks a lot our friends of the European Investment Fund. We are really glad for your availability and your commitment. It is a great opportunity for the Skillman network to listen to this presentation, given that this is also a pilot activity has just been open. Thanks. So first of all to Laura, who is going to take the microphone as soon as I mute myself. Again, thanks to the European Investment Fund. This is a very important cooperation together. We are going to manage other cooperations with other European relevant institutions. Let me mention, for example, the European Training Fund. Other webinars and physical activities will took place on those channels and on the Skillman network with other relevant European institutions. And we are really glad for this cooperation from the European institution and other relevant stakeholders. It is again a great opportunity for all of us to better understand specific instruments and tools to boost and improve the vocational training world in Europe and all over the world. So now, please, Laura, thanks again, and the microphone is yours. I leave you to present also your other colleagues so that I'm not mistaking the pronunciation of the names and surnames. Thank you, Laura.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Hear me, everyone? I guess yes. So good morning. Okay, perfect. Good morning to everyone. It's overwhelming the interest indeed in this webinar and on the Skills and Education Guarantee pilot. Glad to also see people from all over the world attending the webinar, because as Fabio said, this is an instrument that is taking place within the EU, but it's nevertheless a pilot instrument which will help us gather feedback and learn lessons to be introduced in the next programming period of the EU, which is starting post-2020. And so let me move to the presentation as such, which is, Valentina, I think I cannot move my slides. Let us work on the technical.
I will do this again. Let's see if you can do it now.
Okay, but as we're trying to do it, just want to say that it's very important what you are doing. That you have this series of webinars and you are informing people about the opportunities that exist within the EU and beyond. I think it's also very important for us as a European institution to have the floor to explain what we are doing really and come closer to the European citizens and help as much as possible. Let me see. I'm sorry, but I cannot move the slides.
Okay, now try to click on your screen and see if you can get control. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, here we are. So a few, maybe an introduction of who we are here. So the European Investment Fund is the European institution that is responsible to facilitate access to finance to support key policy objectives. We do that using financial instruments. In this specific case of the Skills and Education Guarantee pilot, we're talking about a guarantee financial instrument, and we will be explaining further on during the presentation how this works. And I wanted to just mention from the beginning that our main audience, or the main target audience for support, is SMEs, but depending on the policy objective that we want to support, the audience can be expanded to include other actors very important for the fulfillment of the policy objective we are supporting. Today I will be presenting together with my colleague Cecilia Dario, who will meet in the next slides, in the next section of the presentation. And let us start with the description of the pilot. First of all, by giving a bit of a background on how and why all these have started. We are not alone in this, so there are different actors that they help in the success, and before the success, the launch of this program. So we are working, and we have launched the Skills and Education Guarantee pilot. And I understand that my colleague Ivan from DG Employment, who is one of the DGs responsible and in the driving seat behind this pilot, together with DG EAC, is attending the webinar. So Ivan, if you want to make a comment during the presentation, please feel free. And so the budget for this pilot is coming out of the European Fund for Strategic Investments, €60 million, to be deployed during this programming period, which, as I mentioned before, ends this year. And the purpose, the policy objective that we want to support with the Skills and Education Guarantee pilot is to have within the EU quality, inclusive education, training, and lifelong learning. With everything we do, we're trying to basically bridge a gap that exists in Europe. And in this case, the gap that was identified and needed our intervention, it was the gap in skills. And you will see in the right-hand side of my slide, just a few of the numbers that they indicate this gap. And so with our intervention, we want to provide the financial means to be able to keep up with the evolving needs of the knowledge and to bridge the skills gap that exists. And I think you will agree with me today that the problem was there before, but it became even more evident now with COVID, especially when it comes to digital skills and skills in core industries that we've seen being under stress these days. And let me move on now by explaining how it works. Just before that, I wanted to also mention that we are taking a part in this kind of promotional activities thanks to the support of the EIB, the European Investment Bank Advisory Hub, who is helping us in the capacity building activities, and to explain as well better to, across Europe what is it that we are doing, and specifically under this pilot. So now, on the practical side of things, how does it work? Who are the actors? Which are the actors that are concerned by this pilot? And whom do we try to support with it? So you will see that we have been using color coding on these slides. So whenever you see the blue is referring to the students and learners, yellow is about enterprises that they want to invest in the skilling, in the upskilling and reskilling of their employees. And the pink color is about the organizations supplying education and training. And so what we effectively want to achieve through the Skills and Education pilot is to transfer this financing that is made available thanks to FC and the EU to the final recipients. So to any student and learner that is studying or undertaking a training course within the EU to fund their studies and their skills training, or to enterprises that they want to invest in any training program for their staff, so to train their staff, and for organizations that themselves are the suppliers of education and skill services. And I think well with the purpose also of Skillman and the profile of your members as well. And it's very relevant that we have this session today. Now, how do we do it? How do we transmit this money from the EIF and the EU to the final recipients that we want to support? Is via financial intermediaries. So we use an intermediate model to do it, meaning that we partner with financial institutions. If I focus on the upper part of my slides, so that we guarantee, so we use the EU budget to guarantee loans that they will be giving to any of the final recipients under the 3 categories. So category A, B, and C that we have just seen. And every value of this guarantee financial instrument is that every time default from the side of the final recipient, the EU will be covering with the EU guarantee this loss of non-repayment up to 80%. This is though a guarantee, so meaning that 80% of each defaulted loan will be captured by the EU budget, but overall, there is a cap amount of 25% of the total defaulted amount, of the total amount of the transactions that will be included in the portfolio by the financial intermediaries. It's a free guarantee, so the financial intermediary doesn't have to pay anything to benefit from it. What we achieve by capturing and limiting the risk from the side of financial intermediary is that themselves, after, they can provide more financing to these 3 types of final recipients that we want to support, and at better terms. Now, let's say, we have under the pilot is that apart from the typical way of working that we are all used to it at the EIF, we have also introduced the notion of having financial intermediaries being organizations that they're suppliers of education and skills. So these can be universities or vocational training centers that they themselves want to provide flexible repayment terms to their own students and learners. And you can see that in the lower part of my slide. And in that case, we're not talking about loans, but rather a scheme of deferral of payment. So the university or the vocational training center can defer the payment of the tuition fees or other expenses for their students. And in case of non-repayment, again, 80% of this non-repayment up to the 25% of cap amount will be captured by the EU. And like that, they can attract more students that would otherwise don't have the financial means to do it, to study at their organization. So now I will hand it over to my colleague Cecilia to explain you basically this middle part of the previous slides, So how can someone become a financial intermediary? And then we will go a bit into on the final recipient side, but I will not be going through the full details that you will see on the slides, because the slides are very detailed for you to receive them afterwards and understand better, but also to support us during the Q&A session. And so, Cecilia, please.
Good morning, everybody. In line with Laura's introduction, we'll be now talking about how to become a financial intermediary. First, I would like to speak to you about the two different scenarios that Laura just described. Scenario number one, to cover financial entities that are willing to offer skills and education financial support, or well, loans. And scenario number two, for regarding organizations that are already supplying education and training services and that are willing to finance or to support their students. So you will see here scenario number one, financial institutions. Who is eligible, what sort of financial institutions would be eligible under this scenario? In order to be eligible, you need to be an institution that is duly authorized, meaning that you have all the rights and permissions to carry on that activity. And you have, of course, to be based in an EU member state. Under this scenario, under this sort of financial intermediary, the good thing is that we reach the three different categories that we were just describing, meaning category A, students, category B, companies that are willing to invest in their employees' skills and that they want to borrow money in order to do so, and category C, just organizations active in the skills and education sector. The guarantee characteristics in this scenario, talking about the financial institutions, the guarantee will cover the losses of an agreed portfolio. The IF with our counterpart, we would agree in the impact and volumes of a specific portfolio to be built, and we will cover the losses of this portfolio. The characteristics of the loans to be included in this portfolio, they have to be newly originated loans, meaning that no refinancing or no rollover of an outstanding loan would be eligible. It has to be new money. It has to be up to 30,000 euros if we are talking about students, or if we are talking about companies up to 2 million euros. And of course, the purpose of the loan, it has to be to cover the eligible costs under the program. The guarantee, as Laura said, is always free of charge. And the way it works is that we will cover 80% of each loan up to 25% of the total portfolio. The portfolio we agree, our losses stop when we have already paid 25 of the portfolio, which is already quite a lot. The term of this guarantee for students, we will cover loans up to 15 years. And for companies, corporate clients, SMEs, we will cover the guarantee length is up to 10 years. The only relevant restriction or requirement is that for students, the financial institution, they cannot require any sort of collateral or parental guarantee. Now, I would like to talk to you about the scenario number two, so-called, where we will be talking about organizations supplying already services of skills and education. In order to be eligible as a financial intermediary, you just need to be a supplier of these services that is based on a EU member state and that has the capacity to carry out the deferred payment systems, basically, which basically means that you have the capacity to manage the deferment of the payments of your students. As final beneficiary under this category, we will be reaching just category A for obvious reasons, meaning students and learners. And the guarantee doesn't work in a very different way of what we just described. We will not cover losses because there will be no losses. What we will be covering is the lack of repayments, the non-repayments coming from the students. The portfolio that we will agree will follow the same criteria. It has to be new originated transactions. up to 30,000 euros per student to cover tuition fees and living expenses, which are the eligible costs under the program for students. The guarantee, it works the same. We will cover up to 80% of each loan or each deferred payment granted to a student, up to a total amount of 25% of the portfolio that we agree with the counterpart, with the financial intermediary, in this case, the education supplier. The guarantee will last for up to 15 years, and the same guarantee restriction will apply. No collateral or parental guarantee can be required from the student in order to benefit from the loan. We thought it would be useful just to give you some guidance of our selection process. How do we work with our financial intermediaries? And we have divided the process itself in 4 different stages. The application and pre-selection process. All the information to participate in the program is already available in our website, in our dedicated website for the program in the EIF website. We have already updated our open call of expressions of interest, where there is all the information that you need to go through and that explains how to build the application to be a financial intermediary. The call of expression is open until the 31st of October of this year because it's a pilot, so the length of the program is not very long. And we assess the transactions on a first come, first served basis. The way we assess each request we receive is by following 3 very simple criteria. We assess whether the application is suitable within the expression of interest. We assess the quality of the information that we have received in this expression of interest, and of course the impact it will be generating in terms of the whole pilot and also in terms of geographical reach and other additionalities that can be also considered. If pre-selected, we will arrange a due diligence. Nowadays they will probably be online because of COVID-19 crisis and so on. But basically, this will be just a long meeting where we will discuss all the characteristics, questions, and all the information that we need in order to properly understand the proposal and to build our request for our board of directors. We will submit the internal memorandum to our board of directors, and if supported, we will just negotiate and sign an agreement. Between the signature of this agreement and the actual implementation of the guarantee is usually quite fast. Yes, it happens once after the other. And the availability period of the guarantee agreement, it usually lasts 2-3 years, meaning that our counterpart will have between 2 and 3 years to build the whole portfolio. Then, once the availability period is over, the portfolio is closed, and we will just guarantee the transactions that have been already piled up. Usually, between the application process and the signature of the loan, it takes between 2 and 4 months. It depends a lot on the quality of information we receive and the capacity of reaction of the counterpart of the financial intermediary. It can be faster, it can be longer, but we try to be very efficient and to accommodate. And now I think I give back the floor to Laura.
Thank you, Cecilia. Indeed, I already see some questions in the chat, which we can take afterwards, but I can touch upon a bit quickly now. Just, I wanted to clarify the timeline. So as we said, this is a pilot. It was launched only on the 14th of April. And so now we are at the stage that we are selecting the financial intermediaries that will give the loans or the deferral of payments to the final beneficiaries that we want to support under this pilot, which means that to the market, the money will be available probably during the third quarter of this year, because now we are going through the approval process that Cecilia just explained for the first financial intermediaries that they have applied. So the message from this section if you are a financial institution or a vocational training center or university that want to implement this skills and education guarantee pilot to give out the loans or the deferred payments respectively, you need to apply to the call for expression of interest. The link of the of our website where the call is published is on the slides in the very last one, and on EIF's website, of course. So there was a question to clarify where these financial intermediaries. This is the answer is the member states. So we are talking about the EU member states. Then I'm cautious a bit of the time, so I will just go on with the. Sorry, it's not moving. Just on the last chain of actors in this pilot, the final recipients, very quickly, because we already covered it. Of course, so here the important point is that if you are interested to get financing under these pilots, you need to apply to the financial intermediaries that EIF will select. So the contact is directly with intermediaries, and you will find the information for those once we select them and sign the guarantee agreement with them on our website. Of course, we are always happy to update you on the status, and feel free to reach out to us for more information. I will not go through more details now. Of course, depending on which scenario we're talking about, whether you are a student and learner, an enterprise that wants to reskill and upskill your staff, or an organization that wants to get financing to support the working capital, so day-to-day needs of your business, or investments to develop new programs, for example, you need to provide the necessary documentation with your loan application, financial intermediaries. And I will say, let's get the webinar moving on with the last clarification about, which I think is important in the context of Skillman, and that's why I'm flipping back to my slides. So I just want to highlight that organizations, the suppliers of education and training, can have a dual role under this pilot. So they can either be final recipients, meaning recipients of the financing loans, for example, through a financial institution that will be selected as financial intermediary under the pilot, or you can be under the scenario of financial intermediary as such, to provide flexible repayment terms to your own students and learners. And I will maybe stop here. I don't know, Valentina, if you want me to address the questions now or later, but I think let's, I give you the floor now so that you can guide us.
Thank you very much, Laura, and thank you very much, Cecilia, for your outstanding presentation. I think I would suggest to move on to the quiz part, and then we will take all the questions to be answered later. I see that in the chat there's already a lot of movement. There's already a lot of questions. Also, Mr. Akma Hamid, the president of Institution of Diploma Engineers from Bangladesh, wanted to say something later. So I would just reply to this and say that later we will do all the questions and answers and give the floor to all the participants. Now,
sorry, Valentina,
yes,
to interrupt you. Sorry, Fabio speaking. Because Laura mentioned that we also have connected probably some representatives from the European Commission, Of course, if you want to take action, just let us know, and the microphone will be yours. But yes, as Valentina was saying, now we will have the quiz and then the question and answer. And sorry, the second thing, Valentina, the first main question we see in the chat is connected to the eligibility for external countries other than European one. I want to mention that we will organize a specific webinars for those countries which are not included in the European membership. Considering that there are also different situations depending on the geographical area. For instance, we have some questions about Balkanic countries. Of course, the neighboring countries have more opportunities because there are also other funding opportunities under, for example, the Erasmus Plus project. Other regions of the world are connected to specific instruments. We will go back to these in other webinars. I will give you some more details later. So, if possible, it would be nice to have specific questions for the European Investment Fund so that we have the occasion to involve our speakers from the European Investment Fund. Sorry, Valentina, to interrupt you. It was just to clarify.
You haven't interrupted me. Actually, you have given more information, so that's good, Fabio. Actually, my idea was now to pass the floor to you as we are going to the quiz section. Again, as a reminder, this is a platform, slido.com, where all the participants are now requested to access. You'll be asked an access code, which is pilot, or alternatively, try to scan the QR code on the right of your screen. We just give the participants a few seconds to be connected, and once everybody's connected, we will proceed and start with the quiz so that Fabio can also interact with that.
Thank you, Valentina. Yes, let me remind which is the purpose of the quiz. Of course, we will have to answer to three questions related to the skills pilot guarantee. We choose among different answers, only one is correct. The winner will be the one who answered correctly to all the questions in the fastest way. So, of course, take your time, but not too much, because the fastest one will win the final award, which is an opportunity to be refunded for travels and accommodation to attend one of our physical events to be planned in the forthcoming months. Not before summer, of course, we are talking about autumn and winter, but anyway, we will give you more details. International forum will be organized under the Skillman network and other events, so you will have the opportunity to travel in one of the European countries to attend this event. We will refund up to 300 euros for travels and accommodation. So this is the prize. I suppose you have understood. You have to go with your smartphone, taking the picture of the QR code you see on the screen. I don't know, Valentina, if you want to wait another minute to give to the participant the opportunity to get to the quiz. Then,
actually, I think, Fabio, we gave already enough time. I am only afraid that we will be too long in the final time. So let's start right now.
Very good.
I'm going to get you to the first question, Fabio. If you want, you can read it.
Yeah, so this is the first question. Which are the eligible countries for the financial intermediaries under the Skills and Education Guarantee pilot? You have three potential answers: EU member states and neighboring countries, all the world. Only one answer is correct. The numbers you see in terms of percentage are only the representation of the given answers, so it doesn't mean that the one is correct and not, but I don't know if you, we have set a timer for those answers, Valentina. It is expected to answer in, I don't know, 60 seconds, something like that.
Yes, actually, there's not a clock down timer, but I'm seeing that there's already 21 answers. We will give a few seconds more, and then we will show the results of the correct answer for this question.
Very good. Please remember there are also other 2 questions, so the winner will be based upon the 3 correct questions. Unfortunately, we have one friend saying that he has not the code. The code is the QR code. You can see on the left of the screen. You have to point your smartphone on the QR code, and it will access on the website with the quiz. I think that's
Maybe
enough time.
Maybe what he's asking is the access code. If that is what he's asking, the access code is pilot.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry, I did not mention that. You can find it again on the left, the slash and the pilot. Okay, I think we have a thank you. So also Dalia was able to join the quiz. Good, we have the correct answer, and it is correct. The first one, EU member states, as our colleagues from the European Investment Fund said, only the EU member states in these specific guarantee pilots can access. I think we can move to the next question, Valentina. Very good. Again, one question with different answers. Only one is correct. Through the Skills and Education Guarantee Pilot, the European Investment Fund will provide guarantees to select financial intermediaries in order to provide loans, directly provide grants to final recipients, directly provide loans to final recipients. Only one answer is correct. We will give you some more time to answer. We have already 60 answers. Okay, remember that only the fastest one will win the award. At the end of the third question, we will discover who has been the fastest ones for all the 3 questions. Okay, remember we had 23 answers in the first question. Now we have only 21. Please, the 2 participants who are missing. Okay, 23, perfect. The correct answer is yes, they provide guarantees to select financial intermediaries in order to provide loans. This was a very easy answer, 100%. Of course, thanks to the stunning presentation from Laura and Cecilia. It was very clear on their part. Let's move to the final questions, which are the potential final recipients of the Skills and Education Guarantee Pilot? Students and learners, enterprise investing in skills, organizations supplying education and training, or the above. Of course, only one answer is correct. You have to choose the correct one. Please consider that the question is, which are the potential final recipients? This is not a question related to the intermediaries. So again, a few more seconds. I can see that almost all the participants have answered. We are close to discover who is the winner. Okay, yes, correct. The correct answer was all the above. All the 3 recipients can be the potential, all the 3 entities can be the potential final recipients of the guarantee pilot. Valentina, I think it is time to discover who is the winner.
Actually, Fabio, I think the system needs a few minutes to process all the results. So let's see later if we have time to disclose it then.
Good. So the suspense is increasing. Let's wait a couple of minutes and let's move also to our question and answer session. I need you to book on the chat or to raise your hand. I think there is a way to raise your hand, but anyway, if you are not able to find the button with raise your hand, please write something in the chat. You will have time to ask specific questions to the colleagues from the European Investment Fund. Please be concise, just a few seconds to make your questions. I would like to ask myself, in order to start this question and answer section, I would like to ask some specific questions to Laura and Cecilia, if you don't mind, because I'm really fascinated personally from these instruments, because the instruments of guarantee to give public loan, the public guarantee to give loans to final recipients is quite common in European funding, but not for this sector. I mean, usually it's connected for infrastructures and industrial investments and research and something like that. The question is, do you have some expectation in terms of impact? Do you set some targets of numbers, or I don't know, number of involved countries in terms of final recipients or something like that? Which is your expected impact for this instance?
Thank you, Fabio. Yes, that's a very valid question. So I think it's important for all of us to keep in mind that this is a pilot program. So 50 million euros, it's a relatively small amount for a financial instrument. So in terms of impact for the moment, for this programming period that is ending once again this year, we are not going to be able to have a lot of countries covered. And as Cecilia explained before, it's first come, first served. So I will encourage everyone that is listening to the webinar today to apply as soon as possible. But nevertheless, the interest that we have seen already, it's really overwhelming. We see a lot of traction and we receive a lot of questions, and we have a lot of ongoing discussions with partners that they want to act as financial intermediaries or benefit as final recipients under the pilot. And so, having said that, we need to keep in mind that we need to prove the concept with this pilot in order for us to move to the InvestEU with a much bigger support. So InvestEU is really focusing on the support of skills and education as one of the important sectors or thematic that they want to support, and we want to support. Starting with small impact to prove the concept, to go to a much bigger impact. Indeed.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think that I can read some of the questions already written in the chat. I'm sorry, I will start with a tricky question, but a friend from UK is asking, and as you can imagine, the question is, can UK organizations apply for this guarantee? I know that it is a challenging question with the actual situation, but do you have any kind of answer to this actually?
Indeed, a challenging question given Brexit. But okay, I think the rules of the pilot are quite clear. So you can become a financial intermediary as long as you are based in a member state of the EU. For the time being, UK is, of course, still a member state. So I would say that, yes, you are eligible to apply to become a financial intermediary. But then it remains to be seen what is going to happen once a withdrawal agreement is reached and how this will play out. So, of course, there is an element of uncertainty which will probably be taken into account with an enhanced due diligence once we move into the selection process of such an application from UK. Unfortunately, I cannot be clearer than that at this stage because it's really above us and depends on Brexit.
Sure, Laura. Of course, we also wait for the final step of the negotiations with the UK for all those aspects. It is not affecting only the European Investment Fund, this pilot guarantee, but of course all the other programs funding activities from the European Commission. We will have to wait some more months at least. We have also a very interesting question from Annabelle. Let me read it. As a TBAT center, if we become a final intermediate, can we provide loans only to our own students? Please, Laura.
Sorry, I hear some typing in here.
But it is Valentina. Valentina, no? So who's typing?
So yes, the answer is that a vocational training center can act as financial intermediary, as we have seen back in the first slide.
Sorry, Laura. I think that Valentina, I think it is Yunus. Okay, muted. Perfect. Sorry. Go on, Valentina. Laura.
Okay, thank you. So yes, a vocational training center can act as financial intermediary, and if they do so, they can provide the deferral of payments schemes, so flexible repayments to their own students only. So this is indeed the case.
Fabio, I see here there's a lot of hands who are asking the request to speak. How do we want to do it? We first read the questions and then we pass to the
Let me know if the hands is raised by some of our relevant stakeholders. We will give the microphone immediately, but meantime, I will read what has been written in the chat box because there are always already several interesting questions. There is one aspect which is to better specify the definition of organizations investing in skills. What do you mean? That's of course connected to the slide you shown, the third line, the slide connected to the third category.
If possible, I would like to take control of the slides so that I can
please,
go
Valentina.
back. But basically,
control now, Laura.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. Okay. And so what do we mean by organizations supplying education and training? You can see it here. It's any basically institution, any entity of any legal form that is based again in a member state of the EU and has as a business activity any activity that falls under the NACE Code P. NACE Code is the sectorial allocation used in Europe to classify what are the activities of. And so NACE Code 2 refers to basically all the different levels of education, starting from pre-primary education to higher education and other support activities related to education. But at the same time, an organization falling under category C can be also a company which doesn't necessarily have as overall business activity education or training, but is developing a project that can be classified as educational project under category P. So imagine, for example, a video game company which is developing an educational game, kind of, that can be under category P as well. So this one is eligible as well.
Thank you, Laura.
Just to complement Laura's answer, yes, it is important to understand that in order to benefit from the guarantee, first there has to be a financial institution that has applied for the program and that is implementing the program itself towards companies. So it's so as a final beneficiary, first you would have to interact with a financial intermediary that is interested in participating in this activity.
Thank you, Cecilia. Yes, this is clear. And we also have a question on the financial intermediaries from Dirk Lebe from Germany. I believe, Dirk, you must be a financial specialist because your question is, do you have additional restrictions or expectations to financial intermediaries, for example, interest cap? There is a parenthesis, as there is a guarantee, risk is much lower, so it should be reflected in the interest rate. I leave it to you, Cecilia.
Sure. Maybe I start, and if you want to jump in, Cecilia, please feel free. I will agree partially with the statement raised. So yes, indeed, there is less risk, and this is the purpose of having this guarantee for financial intermediaries. But the overall goal of the project is to enhance the access to finance, and this is not necessarily due through introducing caps in interest rates, but with lower risk can also mean more financing flowing into the market. So a financial intermediary that, for example, may have not considered for financing a student because of higher risk, now with this guarantee, they could consider it and do it for the first time, for example. So in any transaction we are concluding with financial intermediaries, we need to ensure additionality, and additionality is looked at in each and every specific case that we are assessing. It can mean different things. So no, we don't put interest rate caps, restrictions to our financial intermediaries. We rather negotiate with them what this additionality element that they will bring is when we carry out the assessment process that Cecilia explained before.
As Laura is saying, there is no specific cap, of course. However, during the due diligence and during the assessment of the transaction, we will review what is the pricing policy and what is if there is any expected impact in terms of pricing for the final beneficiary. And yes, I can only reiterate what Laura just said, that it's not only a matter of retribution, but also volumes. By the idea is to push financial institutions to go further than what they can do now. And this is something that we will try to achieve. However, there's no cap, but we do assess this point during the due diligence.
Thank you very much, both of you, Laura and Cecilia. I will give you the last three questions, hopefully with a short answer. I need to close the question and answer session. Sorry for all of our participants, but it is a very good news that we have so much questions. Indeed, I think that you will also receive, talking to Laura and Cecilia, some more questions. I think that we can also show the slide, Valentina, in which there are the contacts directly with the European Investment Fund, or we can put in the chat box an email. Let me anyway read the final three questions. I'm going to read all the three together so we can choose how to answer. The first one is related to if there is the involvement of a certification authority during for the final beneficiary. I will enhance this question because it is quite interesting to understand if you think that the kind of training involved in the final loans must lead to a final certification or not. You mean, so basically the question is which kind of training do you accept? Then we have some more questions which are connected to the eligibility of the countries of the students. So, okay, it is clear about the intermediaries and the final organization, which must be located in Europe. What about the students? Can also students' mobility across European and non-European countries can be eligible? And then we had a final question, which was interesting, but now I am lost. So let's review, first of all, for this.
I think there's this question that I think is important about who selects final beneficiaries.
Correct. This was the final one. Yeah.
This is a fully delegated model on the financial intermediary. That means that the financial intermediary would be the one choosing the loans or the students' applications that they will be financing. There will be certain eligibility criteria that we just described in terms of maximum loan amount, and that it has to cover eligible costs and so on, but this is fully delegated into the financial intermediary.
Maybe just to add on that one, which links also to the first question on which kind of training can be supported, which is also part of the eligibility criteria. So yes, as Cecilia said, the selection of final recipients is performed by the financial intermediaries, but the financial intermediaries, they have to operate under the framework and the eligibility criteria that we are providing them with. And so depending on the category of final recipients, we have different eligibility criteria. And one of them is the type of training indeed that we can support. We call them eligible educational programs, and those are programs falling under the international standards of classification 3 to 8. But also many more categories of trainings, including digital skills, other trainings relevant to the labor market, and trainings that lead to a nationally recognized qualification. This is just a short list, but I will invite you to go into the call for expression of interest that you can find in the last slide of the presentation, and see the full definition of those programs. And then there was another important question about the students and if we are supporting mobility of students through this program. Indeed, mobility is one of the important like policy objectives that we want to support also under this program. And this links also to the previous discussion, how this pilot is relevant to outside the EU audience that we have today. It is linked because students or any individual that is maybe non-EU national, but is nevertheless resident within a member state of the EU, can get a loan or a deferral of payment from a financial intermediary that is operating this pilot. And on top of that, the other way where non-EU is present here is that whenever a student or a learner undertakes an educational program, eligible educational program, as we have seen just now in this list, via the means of e-learning, this e-learning can be an e-learning provided by a university or a vocational training center from outside the EU, as long as there is a financial intermediary, once again, in the member state where the student and learner is a resident and undertakes this e-learning program.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura, for your clarifications. Thank you very much. We are a little bit over time right now. I just want to ask you, Fabio.
Yeah, sorry, Valentina, but I forgot that a couple of participants raised their hands. I need to check if they still have questions. I'm mentioning Iyad and Yunus. I think you both are working in Turkish universities, different universities. If you still want to make very quick questions, we can give you the microphone. Valentina, you can open the microphone. Only please be very concise if possible.
Yes, we are already over time, and I also want to give a few minutes to our VIP member today, Akma Hamid from Bangladesh, afterwards. So let's try to be fast. Okay.
Sure, but I cannot give the microphone because I don't have the permission. You have to give it.
I will have Luca to do it, so don't worry.
Okay. Meantime, I have to say that unfortunately we are not able to show the result of the quiz, which will be sent by email. This is due to a technical issue, Valentina informed me, but anyway, the answers have been recorded, so it is done, but only we are not in a position to give you the final name. It will be published through an email that you are going, an email follow-up that you are going to receive as soon as the webinar ends. I'm sorry for this issue, really only a technical issue, but please trust us, it will be published and everything will be made in a more transparent way. Do we have?
Can you give the permission, Luca, to and switch on the microphones for those two participants, please?
And of course, also to Ahmed Hamid, who is the president of the institution from Bangladesh I was mentioning before, the Institution of Diploma Engineers. And we thanks very much the institution and Mr. Ahmed to be here, as well as I was saying other relevant stakeholders from public administrations all over the world. It is very important to have you here.
Luca is telling me that Yunus now has the microphone switched on. So Yunus, if you want to ask a question or say something, now you have the floor. Yunus, can you hear us? Can you speak?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for your interest on my
Thanks to you.
situation. So I am happy to be part of this kind of event, online one. I was appreciated the comments and all the things that I get from the event. So I think I don't have any questions right now in my mind. So this is what can I say? I am from Giresun University in Turkey. I am a lecturer at Technology Transfer Office. I am Technology Transfer Office expert here. So I continue to make better things in the future career.
Thank you very much, Yunus, for your contribution. Thank you very much. Anyways, you can also contact us after the webinar, no problem. Let's get to the second speaker who raised the hand, Mr. Iyad. So please, Luca, try to turn on his microphone.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Iyad. You have the floor now if you want to speak. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Happy to participate in this webinar. This is the second time I participate in such webinar. I have a question about the guarantee for individual person. For me, I study a PhD tourism in Anatolia University in Turkey. I hope to establish a kid garden or a school to depends on the English or European curricula in Turkey to solve a problem like tourists or from another countries in Turkey, families, child's study in Turkey, maybe sometimes face a problem in language, especially in the first years here in Turkey. So I feel that there is need to establish a school or a kid gardens. Depends based on the international or global curricula, global system to teach the English or foreign language in Turkey for the non-Turkish childs and students. My question is, could you support us to in this to establish this kids garden or a school in Turkey?
Thank you very much, Iyad. I will have to speed up the questions so far. Laura, if you want to give a very quick answer to this.
Yes, thanks a lot. As we said, unfortunately, the scope of this pilot is only the member states of the EU. So under this pilot, unfortunately, the answer is no. But the European Investment Fund has other programs that we operate, and they are also available in countries beyond the EU, including Turkey. So I will invite you to have a look at our website.
Thank you very
say.
much, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Sorry, Valentina. Also, again, stay tuned to all our non-European countries to the forthcoming events. We will dedicate a specific webinar to the funding activities for non-European countries. We will have a full presentation of all the instruments, of course, related to vocational training activities. I don't have an agenda yet, but it will come very soon. Stay tuned on Skillman.eu website. Ms. Valentina.
Thank you very much, Fabio. So now, as the last few minutes, as we are already late in the schedule, I will just give the microphone to Mr. Akmal Hamid, the President of Institution of Diploma Engineers from Bangladesh, our VIP present today. Thank you very much for joining us. I see in the chat that you requested just a few minutes to add some comments. So now we give you the floor, please. If you can hear us, try to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon from Bangladesh. This is Hamid, President in Institution of Diploma Engineers, Bangladesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. This is the moderator of the webinar, Valentine the Eco, and the Laura and Cicilo and Omid, Mr. Omid and Mr. Said and other participating in this webinar. Thank you very much for inviting me and also allow me to speak. I am very much delighted to speak in this webinar, as because, ladies and gentlemen, as I can express my deep appreciation for inviting me and allow me to speak in this this webinar. I am very much thankful to Skillman leader, Mr. Kisano, who connected me with European Union. And as I can remember from my organizational point of view, as you know, the Institution of Diploma Engineers Bangladesh is the largest professional organization in this country. And we have a 0.5 million member. And we are closely working with this government and also our as a professional organization working for our members continuous lifelong learning process and training we are providing. I just remember that Mr. Casino also participated in our international conference last February, our Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh inaugurated the program. Mr. Casino is also, he is very kind to be there to preside over some session and his presentation. I am very much grateful to him. And let me just giving thanks to Skillman that they allowed me to participate in their international conference in October 19. That was very good seminar in Florence, Italy. I participated. Just like to inform you, the IDB is working with ILO and funded by Skill 21 project, and we are working with the World Bank project of STEP project also. We are working with many other organizations, socio-technical for the socio-technical development of the country. I believe to get more people into job and to better respond, the skills and education guarantee pilot project is very timely, innovative project, I think. We have to collaborate each other to develop more job to combat the pandemic situation. Dear participants, the country across the world looking to implement strategic and improve both the employment prospect of young women and men and the productivity of enterprise. Tibet is the major contributor and master key for this activity, I think. The Institution of Diploma Engineers Bangladesh, as I like to inform, now we are working to introduce Tibet inclusive primary education, and also from the primary to tertiary education, Tibet would be the main key, and inclusive education is important for the development of skill and education. So I like to inform also that IoT and Robotic Lab of IDB is working for development of robotics and agricultural innovative technological equipment to adopt IR4. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will not take more time, as because you have a constraint of time. So I will just finish. Thanking you very much for giving the floor to speak to you. I think IDB and European Union can come together and work for the betterment of the Bangladesh and also the world, as because skill and education is very important, not only for Bangladesh, it is for the European country also. If we can work together, we can serve the whole world also. So thank you very much, Laura and other who presented the paper, and thank you very much, Valentina Biko, for giving me the.
Yes.
Sorry for that.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
much.
Thank you very much for your contribution to the webinar today. We're very honored to
Thank
have
you. Sorry, Valentina. I would like to thank you personally, Mr. Hamid. You mentioned our president, Giovanni Crisona. Unfortunately, he's not able to answer to your welcome, only because he's involved in another webinar from the European Commission for the self-instrument, the self-assessment tool for education. But of course, you named him because we already started a strong cooperation with the organization and with other relevant stakeholders, as you mentioned also the Asian Development Bank. I totally agree on your point, and yes, this is one of the aim of Skillman, to boost the cooperation among other relevant stakeholders and organizations across the world to improve the vocational training approach and the skills approach all over the world to boost transnational cooperation. We strongly believe in this. As you know, we already cooperate on this, and of course, we will have further opportunities. I would ask also to our friends from the European Investment Fund, because we are coming to an end. Unfortunately, we are a little bit late, but please, I give you back the microphone, Laura and Cecilia, if you want to give any last message to our participants before closing our webinar.
Sure, thanks a lot. An important message that I want to give is indeed that we have another webinar, our own webinar dedicated to this pilot on the 20th of June for vocational training centers or universities or other organizations that supply in education and training to understand better how the pilot works and how they can become financial intermediaries under the pilot and work with us. And so I will probably, if you allow me, I will pass on the invitation to maybe Valentina to forward it with the slides.
Sure.
Perfect. Other than that, I would just like to thank you a lot for giving us this opportunity to present the pilot, and all the participants for the interest that they showed during the presentation. And feel free to reach out to us after this webinar, and we will be happy to assess any questions that they remained unanswered.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. I'm just concluding today's webinar. I am sorry to everybody, to all the people who just who are just writing in the chat for to contribute and ask questions. I would just remind to you an easy way to ask those questions and be answered by those questions by Laura and Cecilia and their organization, LESA. Just a few remarks about the next events. I'm going to be very quick because we're very late. But anyways, our next webinar is going to be on the 17th of June, next Wednesday. And is another webinar on EU fund opportunities. This time we're going to cover Knowledge Alliance in the maritime sector. So if any of you is interested in participating, please subscribe to the link that my colleague is now posting in the chat section for everybody to register. Also, again, as Laura mentioned already, if you have any other questions, and unfortunately for the lack of time now, we cannot answer all your questions on this very webinar, but this is the email address of the European Investment Fund. So you see here the email address and also the website, www.eif.org. I am sure Laura and Cecilia will answer all your questions later on, so please write to them directly. Thank you very much for having us today. Thank you very much for your high participation. The last, very last remark, please, Luca, my colleague, will just send the link of our feedback form. So please take a few minutes of your time to evaluate our management and organization of this webinar. We want to improve our service that we're giving to our members. So your contribution on the feedback is very well appreciated. So for me, that's all. Thank you very much, Fabio. I'm all set from my side.
Yes, well, just the last thing, thanks to you, Valentina, for the stunning organization of this webinar. Of course, you know, there is a lot of people working in the background, so thanks to all our friends working in the background, like Luca, like Elena, like all the other friends we have to support us in organizing these webinars. Again, thanks to all of us, to all of you, and stay tuned for the forthcoming events.